Hey everybody, welcome to my channel, or welcome back to my channel, Chatting with Chops. My name is Karen and I like to make fun and entertaining videos that might teach you something along the way. Today we're going to make some apple hand pies. It has been requested, so we're going to see what we can do. I'm pretty sure I have made this recipe vegan before, but I'm going to do it obviously again to make sure. And I thought I would bring y'all along for the ride, so let's get started. So the first thing you need when you're going to make some apple hand pies is you need a pie crust. Now I will say the easiest thing to do is just buy the store-bought pie crust that they sell at the Walmart or the Kroger or anything. It's the, you roll it out in the sheets and you can jump right into this recipe. So if you're caught short for time, I would definitely recommend doing that. I normally like to make my pie crust homemade just because I'm not very good at it, so I like to practice whenever I can. So basically the first thing that you want to do is I'm going to make a double batch so that I can make more hand pies. And I needed 2 cups of flour, so I've put that in there. And I'm going to break my rule. I normally say I don't put salt in anything but bread, but I have been told that pies are also something that kind of need the salt. So I'm just going to put a tiny bit of salt in there. And then at this point, you want to take 1/3 cup of vegetable shortening. This is vegan. We have double checked and triple checked. My resident vegan in the house has made sure that it is vegan shortening. I mean, it's vegetable shortening, but it is safe. All right, so you've got that in there. And then the next thing you're going to do, now they make nice little tools that make this super easy, but of course I don't have one of those. So you just want to break up the shortening in the flour into tiny little bits. So you just keep using your fork and just move your flour around. And yes, if you're a messy cook like me, you're probably going to end up with some flour around. And just keep working it up against the side of the bowl. I don't know if you can see that, where it just kind of slides through the fork. So it's breaking it up to little pieces throughout the flour. You don't want great big pieces of shortening in your pie crust as you make them. So I'm just going to keep working this flour and vegetable shortening until I have some little tiny bits of shortening through here. And once you make sure that you don't have any more big pieces, it doesn't take very long. You just want to make sure you don't have any gigantic pieces. And there's chances later on to break those up as well. So, all right, so we basically have that ready. So now you're going to take anywhere from 6 to 7 tablespoons of cold water to start getting this into a pie crust. And so what's usually a good idea is to start with low. Don't just put all 6 tablespoons of water in at one time. With a double pie crust, I'm going to go ahead and put in 4 and mix that in. So that's 3 and then 4. And I have no idea why it is, but sometimes you need 6, sometimes you need 7. There might be, sometimes where you might have measured your flour a little bit too much and you might need 8 tablespoons. So just basically working with it until it starts to form a crust or a dough. Okay. So we're mixing this in. All right. So see how it's starting to kind of pull together? Right. So now that was 4. So we're going to put in 5 and 6. Okay. All right. So see how it's really starting to come together now. Okay, now what I'm going to do is I'm going to add 1 more, and then this is when it starts to get messy. I tell you, if you don't like getting messy, then there are some things in the kitchen that are just not going to be good recipes for you. Bread is one of them. And pie crusts is another. All right, so that was 7 tablespoons. So we've mixed that in. And now is when you want to just basically use your hands. Now, I mean, again, I talk about being messy. You could probably use a plastic glove, and that way you wouldn't get it all over the place. You'll see I've already taken my jewelry off because I don't like pie crust stuck in my ring. All right. So now we're just going to work, just kind of squeeze this. And what you're doing is you're kind of getting that vegetable shortening warmed up with the warmth of your hands. You're getting all that water worked in on the flour. And you're just working to make a ball. You want to get things as much incorporated together as possible. And at this point is when I would say, work with it for a minute or two and see if you can get it all mixed in all together on its own. If it's just not coming together for you, then I would say you could probably add just a tiny bit more water. But you definitely want, in my opinion, at this point in the game, you want less moisture than you want too much moisture. Okay? And see how it's coming together in a nice little ball? So I'm going to work with this just a little bit more. And then we are going to flatten that out and make some little mini pie crusts. So we've made a double batch of the pie crust, but we're only going to work with a little bit of it at a time, just because I like to work with a little bit of it at a time. And so you just want to roll it out. And you're putting it between 2 pieces of saran wrap, because that way you don't have flour everywhere and it doesn't stick to your rolling pin. And it just seems to be easier to work with, in my personal opinion. I did not come up with this great idea. It was handed down to me. And so you're just going to keep working it out until you can get it really thin. All right. You really, at this point, you can make them any size that you want. It suggests doing 3.5 as the diameter. And pretty much that just makes it where they are hand pies and not gigantic regular pies. And there's not really any like expert way to do this. You just want to try and cut your dough out, and then you have a little round. And you're just going to make as many of these as you possibly can. And yes, you will need an even amount because you're making pies, and this is the top and the bottom. So the next step that we're going to do is cut up our apples really, really small for the little hand pies. It's asking for about 2 cups. And I have found when I've made these before that they just seem to do really a whole lot better if the pieces of apple are really, really small. Because as you can see, this is the size of the hand pies, so you don't want gigantic chunks of apple. I forgot to say also, you can kind of use what kind of apples you particularly like. I know a lot of people say that when you're baking you should always use green apples, and I think they're Granny Smith apples is what they're called. I just have a tendency to use whatever apple I like that tastes good to me. Now we're going to make our little hand pies mixture that goes inside of it. So we have our chopped apples, about almost 2 cups. Like you said, you know, unless you've got a ton of circles, you probably won't need a full 2 cups. And then we need, what do we need next? We need sugar. So we need 1/4 cup of sugar. And then flour. We need 2 tablespoons of flour. All right, 2 tablespoons of flour. Okay. And then vanilla extract. Half a teaspoon of that. And then a half a teaspoon to 1 teaspoon of ground cinnamon, which we really love cinnamon in this house. So I have a tendency to go a little bit overboard, just a little bit. So that was a whole tablespoon. Or no, that was a whole teaspoon. I'm sorry, not a tablespoon. I didn't go that far overboard. And then you need 1/8 of a teaspoon of nutmeg, which I'll just take a little bit of that. Okay. And then we're going to just mix this all together. So you have your little piece of hand pie dough. And you want to take a little bit of your apple mixture and get it right there in the middle. And then because you're not using the egg wash, I would just say try to just wet the edges a little bit with just some water. And then take another dough circle and just put that over the top. And just press down as hard as you can, because you're basically trying to crimp them closed. Okay. And that's why you have to be careful not to put too much filling in, because they won't be able to close. But you have to give them a little spot to kind of vent like a regular apple pie, so that the steam has a place to come out. So you just put a little slit cut in the top. You're going to cook these in a 400-degree Fahrenheit oven for about 18 to 22 minutes. Again, remember, your oven's going to be different than somebody else's, but you basically want to get them where they're nice and golden brown and maybe a little bit bubbly. One tip, if you have any of your apple hand pie mixture left over, you can put this on top of ice cream and it tastes fantastic. And of course, vegan ice cream as well. Well, there they are. They turned out gorgeous. They're a little slippy on the baking mat. But we're going to let them sit here and cool for a few minutes. And then I'll take them off. I don't know if you can see in the on the video that they're a little bit brown on the edges. That's how I like to get mine. They really are lovely little pastries. It does take a few minutes to make them, so I would say that it's, not something that you can just quickly throw together. Like I said, you have to make the crust if you're going to make the crust yourself, so you still have to make the crust, and then actually put the apple mixture together, assemble them, and then let them cook. And like I said, they cook for about 20 minutes, so it's a little bit of a longer process. But I definitely think they're worth it. And of course, like I said, this recipe is very easy to make vegan. I have not tried to make this gluten-free before. I'd have to look at the ingredients again. Obviously, I'd have to use different flour. But I hope you like this video. Please like and subscribe and help me grow my channel. And I will see you on the next bake.